All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Co-Creators Convergence Thursday Night Creator Convos. I'm Noel Marshall, and I'm here with my beloved.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you for joining us this evening, which is whenever time you show up here or on Facebook or in the archives of the co-creatorsconvergence.com website, because there's no such thing as time. So welcome, everyone. Mark, thank you so much. We're delighted to have you and your daughter with us this evening. Really looking forward to the conversation.
We're just delighted to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. And welcome everyone who is brave enough to be in the Zoom room with us. And I highly encourage that, because this is quite an amazing, remarkable man who is also bringing his daughter, who is quite a conduit connected with the Pleiadians, as I understand. I don't know all, but we're going to be learning about that in this next hour, and you'll have a chance to dialogue with both of them. So anyway, welcome. Thank you, Mark Shryock, for being here. And I'm going to tell everybody a little bit about the Co-Creators Convergence and what we have coming up. And then we'll be back. I'll do a formal introduction. Bob will do we'll do a centering. And then, okay, you're going to lay it out for us. I'm so excited to hear about the 5D. So stand by, everyone.
I'd like to invite us all into a place of collective time together this evening, in spending our time with Mark and his daughter around the grand campfire of consciousness that the Co-Creators Convergence is. And use our imagination, one of the most underused attributes of humankind, imagination. Use our imagination to sit around the campfire together. So I would invite all of us to close our eyes, unless we're driving down an interstate right now, and consider the opportunity to be in community for the evening. You know, throughout time, fire has been at the center of rituals and ceremony. In the mystery schools throughout the ages, fire has been used as a connection to the sacred, to the divine. So with our eyes closed, let's look in our mind's eye at the flame that's before us in this grand fire as we sit in circle. As we gaze at the fire, imagine all the mysteries, all the wisdoms, the stories that came before this moment. Remembering now that when we light the fire, it is the same fire that's lit around the world and throughout time. When we light the fire, it represents the same flame that our ancient forebears sat around and told stories. It's the same fire that our parents and our grandparents cooked on. Maybe we roasted marshmallows there with them. Fire connects us to each other through all of time and space. In our gatherings, we bring awareness to the elemental flame as we light this fire, the sacred flame, in witness of our experiences and our deep work. The fire we light is a mirror of the flames within each of us. It is indeed our internal divine spark. So with that, I invite you to come back to your present space in peace, and so looking forward to the conversation this evening with Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. Very beautiful. So let me give a formal introduction to Mark, and then we'll have a little chat. And he has so much to share. It's an amazing being. So hold on to your hats. Now, this is Mark talking. In late 1986, my Kundalini completely rose to my higher chakras. After this, I could see aura and people's past lives in their energy veil in their faces, and every moment had mystical, intuitive experiences and began to channel. This at first was rather disturbing. In 1987, Mark looked out a window and followed a ray of light in the sky to where about 100 people had been guided to come to anchor the harmonic convergence on August 16th and 17th. He's starting at this time to prepare what is occurring now. The preparation consisted of multi-streams of light and experiences that led Mark through codependency treatment and then to work at the same treatment center, to ecology work, art, writing, working as a professor, and to Asia for a decade. Mark has an MA in Humanities in Cosmology, Ecology, and Consciousness, and was a PhD fellow at the Pondicherry University in India. Mark was an honorary professor at the School of Ancient Wisdom in India and has an honorary doctorate in divinity. He is an artist, author, and speaker. He is also in business and owns and operates 3 LLCs. And you can learn more about Mark at Shryock.com. Shryock.com. I'll make sure I get that. Got to get the A in there, folks, or you just won't get. So welcome, Mark. And can I just tell one little teeny little story?
Sure, please. Sure.
So, as most of you know, we are having the Co-Creators Convergence, our 11th gathering, and that will be in North Carolina at the mountain. And that's going to be in October, which I think is going to be a spectacular time of year. So when I signed the contract and made our deposit, they put up just a little space holder thing saying Co-Creators Convergence will be here, October 6th through 11th, and had a little blurb, I think, from our website, just a couple sentences. And so Mark saw that. And then you decided, you were told, I guess, that you needed to contact me.
Yeah, very, very loudly. Yeah.
So he did, and I answered the phone, as I sometimes do, even if I don't know who was calling. And we had a wonderful conversation, and that's kind of led. And then he was, I had someone scheduled for this date, and the same day that person contacted me and said, oh, something came up. Can I postpone till June? And so I said, sure. And so then I said to Mark, hey, this date is open. Do you want to be our guest? So you can see the synchronicities of all this coming together. So I don't want to take any more of this precious time, but as you all know, just stay muted, keep off your video. Any comments or questions, please put them in the chat. Even if you're on Facebook, Bob is watching the comments there. We'll bring them over to Mark. But if you get really adventurous, come into the Zoom room, because we're also going to be joined by your 12-year-old daughter, Tara. And you're going to tell us about her. And like I said, I'm not going to take any more time because you just have so much to share with us. And I'm just so appreciative, Mark, of you and Tara being here tonight.
We're delighted to be here. Thank you so much for all that you have done for this.
Over to you, my friend.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Well, I wanted to start out just by kind of talking about 3D and what has led us here and the ascension that's going on, 5D, what it is. Someone called me last night, a family member, and asked me why I was posting all the crazy things I was posting and wanting to know more about it. And so I think that's a good place to start. In Atlantis, when we were meant to just have an ascension, and an ascension, well, first let me back up and say what 3D is. 3D is just about as dense and materialistic as you can go for any kind of spiritual growth. And we were meant back in the time of Atlantis to move higher. And I'll go into what happened here in a minute, but we were meant to go into 4D and then into 5D. 3D is very, very dense. And up until the harmonic convergence, that was our most densest point. And at that point, we did not know if this civilization would survive or not. And we were told that very clearly at the time of the harmonic convergence. To give you an idea what 4D is, because a lot of people get confused about that. 4D, if you think of like 3D as day, and then you think of twilight, and then you go in the night, that would be a good way to look at 4D as the twilight. It's the in-between. Every stage, like 3D going to 5D, has a twilight stage. And we've been in the twilight stage ever since the harmonic convergence. Does that make sense? And now we're no longer in the twilight stage. We are in ascension, and it's happening. And we didn't know even back 8 months ago, 9 months ago. I stored up quite a bit of food, and I bought some tents because the timelines weren't set. We didn't know how bad it was going to be, if things would have to be totally wiped out. Nothing, when you go from 3D to 5D, nothing that was in 3D that is, really negative energy cannot sustain very long in 5D. And so we're moving into 5D very, very fast. There's been a lot of people talking about these 3 waves of light that is coming in, and we're all going to wake up and magically be 5D when these waves hit. It doesn't quite work that way, at least not with my experience. Even after my Kundalini blew completely open and I experienced a lot of what people are going through now, I still went to treatment after that. And I still went through a great deal of traumatic experiences moving through. But now it's not quite like that. It's not so dense, and it's happening very, very fast. And we have just a ton of help from the entire universe has our back in this, and we are in ascension, and we're going. It's happening right now. When Atlantis fell, I was one of the people that had fathered. In fact, I led the team that fathered the Great Crystal. My job as a Blu-ray soul is that I have been involved in multiple ascensions across multiple planets, but we had never lost control of the technology. And we lost control of the technology in Atlantis. The dark forces took it, they used it. The crystal that we created is actually what destroyed Atlantis. And we scattered out across, and the ascension was blocked. About the time of Avalon, it just kept getting denser and denser. And about the time of Avalon, with King Arthur, you could no longer see fairies or the elementals. And these beings are very, very real. Maybe the simplest way to say what ascension is to say that it's the divine feminine. And the divine feminine completely was stripped away from the earth and completely collapsed by the time Avalon hit. But ever since, the grid lines that powered Earth, everything was just literally ripped out. Those ley lines were not relit. The Pleiadians came back in. We set and watched on March the 2nd and the 3rd. These lines began to be completely relit, and they're widening now every day. Eventually, there'll be no place you can go without being in 5D. And of course, what happens and what you're seeing is that any time energy comes in, it gets whatever vibration you're at, that's what you begin to vibrate to. And so it's going to bring up all, if you've got a lot of negative stuff, it's going to bring it up, but it comes up very fast. And you just say, I see it. Okay, I get it. I'm feeling this. I'm sad. You don't try to make it right or wrong, or I'm depressed. And then you let it rise and it goes. And so now we're all moving through this very quickly. Not everybody will go to 5D. It's a free will choice. And a lot of people want to stay in 3D because there's a lot of stuff you can learn in 3D and they don't want to change that. But Earth is now already in 5D and we're going. It's not is this going to happen? Maybe. And we didn't know this. Even 8 months ago, we didn't know. Did the whole civilization have to be wiped out? Are we going to have this, Tara had a dream one night and came in and told me, and I had the same dream of a volcanic eruption. And at that time, we were on a timeline where a volcanic eruption was going to occur and literally cover the Earth. That's not going to happen now. There may be some Earth changes with this. There'll be some earthquakes as we move into this and different things, but not anything like a massive catalysm like what we originally saw. What will happen, though, is that let's take, for example, if you want to be in business, if just to bring it down to practical terms, unless you are offering a business that serves the higher good of everyone, your business will not survive. I was just watching a YouTube before I came on about how the pharmaceuticals had taken nasal sprays. And even though they had been around since the 1950s, they took them and they patented them in the patent book, and now it's theirs. And now instead of charging like $10 for the spray, they're charging $500. Those things will stop. In fact, the whole system that rides on will collapse. And so there'll be a period that we have to go through a bit of chaos, but it's not going to be anything like what we thought it was. And it's changing so fast now, I don't even feel comfortable in making any kind of prediction. I'm not sure it's just not going to move in and be very, peaceful, because it's changed. The way I understand, no one, even in the universe, anticipated humanity to come up to the table like we have. And it really is a profound miracle that we have done what we've done. And the night, the March 2nd and 3rd, when we watched the grid lights, I can't tell you what that was like to look back to when I followed that ray of light and being told all of this was going to happen, and then to see it happening, and and there were times that we thought it would never happen. It's just and so it's been really a magnificent thing. And so again, just to recap about the 3D to the 5D, just make sure. I'm sorry, I'm an old professor, so I always make sure I cover back again. 3D is very, very dense, and that's where we've been ever since Atlantis fell. And we're going through 4D into 5D very, very fast at a clip pace. And just think of 4D as and this is personally, Earth has already done it. Earth started going into 5D back again at the harmonic convergence, but now each one of us goes through this twilight stage as emotions come up, and we don't stay in one place. Like earlier, I lifted something. I've got a hernia. I'm getting ready to have surgery, and I lifted something that was hurting, and I snapped a tear. And at that moment, I was in 3D, if that makes sense, And then I recentered, and I was in 4D, and then I'm back. And so we go back and forth. We never quite stay. It's not this magical. But at each day it gets stronger and stronger. Most people, I would suspect, that are watching this here today are having ascension symptoms. The headaches, the body aches, the blurry vision, shoulder aches, just like flu. I went through 2 weeks of being so depressed, I almost couldn't function as stuff came up. But it seems now it's for me at least, it's just this huge, this light just coming in, just wave after wave, and it's just taking me higher daily. I'll give you an example how this kind of works with the divine feminine. When I say divine feminine, I want to give you an example of what I mean, so people can kind of see what we're talking about going at what 5D. It's very tied to working with the earth. We were always meant to be co-creators with the universe and the earth. We're meant here to be a partner with the earth. And so I'll give you an example today in preparation for this talk, but I do this meditation anyway. And this was a meditation that was given by the Pleiadians, not to me, but they did give it. And I altered it a bit for myself, but you take a crystal, I took 2, and you put one under your foot, and you go outside and you stand. Okay, you cleanse the crystal, you take it, and I sat down because I have great big crystals, and I would have punctured my foot, and I wanted to put both feet on and do a longer meditation. And so I sat on a bench out in my fairy garden, and the process of this meditation is to clear your auras and pull in golden light through yourself and to earth. Does that make sense? And so during the meditation, you go through each chakra and you say clearing, activating, and then you actually kind of like swirl the chakra mentally and activate it through this golden light, and you go up through each one of your chakras. Well, I did my first chakra and it spun just fine. And I got to my second chakra and I spun in it. And in my mind, it was kind of like watching, you know, how you crank a car and it doesn't crank. And it was like just kind of partially spun. And I thought, well, that's crazy because I'm really, really creative. And, you know, I thought, okay. And about that time while I was doing that, this bumblebee flew right up in front of my face. And at first I panicked. I thought, okay, I get stung. And then I recentered, and the bumblebee just kind of stayed there. And then I went ahead and finished my meditation. But when I came back in, bumblebees represent, because they're really, a lot of people feel like they shouldn't be able to even fly. And they represent dreams coming to fruition, impossible dreams coming to fruition, and to create and trust those. And, you know, it's not accidental that occurred at the exact moment I was doing the second chakra, firing it up, because that's where we create from, is that chakra. And that was Gaia speaking to me, Mother Earth, telling me through the bee that accept that all things are possible now, that she has my back to continue this work, to move forward. And I've experienced a lot of times of her speaking with me, but for everybody now, people will begin to experience this. This divine feminine, that energy has not been here on Earth since Atlanta fell. I carried in my soul, that's what a blue ray soul is. It is the divine feminine ray. But it hasn't been present to any great degree. And since Avalon, you know, when the fairies disappeared, and anybody that talked about fairies or this, that you got burned, you know, at the stake for doing. So this is a very real thing that's occurring, is this divine feminine. And we tend, I want to talk about, I want to show you again the divine feminine and how we can misuse it. I'll give you an example. I was the first person in the world to academically document and bring back a tall grass prairie in Kansas. And I did that as part of my master's thesis, and it was, I worked with Kansas Wildlife and Park, a lot of biologists, but we also did a lot of spiritual work and combining that with the science and everything. But my ex-wife at the time hated the prairie with a passion. And she just wanted the yard. It was 20 acres, and you drove through a stone gate, and it was a manicured yard, and she didn't want the prairie. She wanted it back to the yard. And so we'd been fighting for a long time about the prairie. And I got in my car and I just drove. And I said, you know, I've got to know if you want me to keep doing this prairie work or not. I need a sign. And there was a church there in Riverton, Kansas, that had a true tall grass prairie, a virgin prairie. There's only 1% of this riparian tall grass prairie in the world. It's the rarest ecosystem in the world. And I made up my mind. They always mowed it before it could finish its cycle. And I made up my mind that, or I heard that would be my answer. I would go there and I would ask them to stop mowing the prairie. And if they said yes, then I had my answer. I'll keep doing my prairie work. If they said no, then I was going to quit the prairie. And I really kind of wanted to quit because I was just tired of messing with it. So I pulled in. It'd been raining for 3 days, and there was a bulldozer out front. And I walked in, and I had to wait for the minister to come out. I was sure he was going to say no. And I said to him, I said, do you realize that you have out there what I've tried to recreate for 7 years and cannot? You cannot, you can bring it close, but you cannot ever recreate this once it's destroyed. And I said, will you just let it finish its cycle and stop, you know, so the seeds, because it's really important for the animals to migrate. They're surviving by just going from island to island. And he turned white. I mean, literally white. And that prairie was slated to be bulldozed the following morning. The only reason it hadn't been because it had been raining. And so I showed up at this church and asked him to stop. And we walked out into the prairie, and it was twilight. And the prairie just literally spoke through me, and it showed me things I did not know. And I would say, and over here is a narrow-mouthed toph, and it's almost extinct. And I would lift up a leaf, and there it would be. And it just, it was incredible. But, and that prairie is still there today. But my prairie that I worked for 7 years on is gone. We divorced. It was rounded up, sprayed with Roundup, tilled back down, and grass seed was put on it, and it's a lawn now. But the point out of this is that I'm trying to make is that this is the way the divine feminine works. We don't get to choose who we save, and we don't really get to choose the projects that we're going to co-create with. It's the exact opposite of the way we've been doing it, where we hear something in our head and say, well, I think I'll do this, and that'll be really fun. We wait until we hear it in our heart. Go do this. We listen, we step, we listen, we step, listen, we step. And I've been living this way for a long time, and it works. Now, it seems to me to be very tied with courage. I was in Korea, and I was asked to write a story. I had wrote one other journalistic article, and I was asked to write a story at the time that I was working there as a professor about an oil spill. And what had happened, there was an oil spill, and Samsung's ship had broke loose. It was being towed in high sea when it shouldn't have been being towed, but it broke loose and it rammed a ship from India, and a tanker, and it caused the oil spill. And so they imprisoned, instead of imprisoning Samsung, they imprisoned the guys from India. And I called just thinking, you know, I was trying to practice forgiveness at the time because I was so angry over the oil spill. But I thought, man, it would be horrible to be in prison in a Korean country, and I called the embassy and asked them if they wanted some books, and they said, "Are you Mark Shryock that just wrote the article?" And there was another article I just wrote, and I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Will you come to the embassy?" And so when I went there, they asked, the first mate and the captain's wives were there, and they kind of ambushed me, and they asked me if I would write this story about how they did not cause the oil spill. And I kept hearing to write the story, but I knew if I did, we'd get kicked out of the country. And me and my ex-wife at the time, she was from the Philippines, and we were only as good as our visa, and we would not stay together if I got kicked out of Korea. But I kept hearing to write the story. And that's kind of how this divine feminine works. It's very loud sometimes, and it just keeps, if you're meant to do something, it wants you to do it. And my experience is it kind of gets like, first it's a thump, and then the next time it's a baseball bat, or a little bit louder, and you're far better off responding to it, co-creating with it when it first knocks. But sure enough, I got a red ink email saying, I wrote the article. It took me 5 weeks to research it. I wrote it. It came out that day, and sure enough, that morning I got a red ink email saying, "Come, our visa had been revoked." But the story broke and got picked up by every newsletter and across the world. And 13 hours after the story broke, the guys walked out of prison. The president released them. And I had wrote the stories talking about how India had said they would boycott them and everything, and of course, after that, I met all these people from India, and that took me to India to work at a private school. And then because of that, that took me to Bangladesh. And while I'm at Bangladesh, they start chopping up people, professors with machetes, and so we have to leave, and we end up going back to the Philippines, and they're paying me the whole time while I'm there doing research. And so anyway, we run our visa and we come to the US. We never thought we would even be able to come to the US. But my point out of this is just making the point that the way this divine feminine energy works is you have to act in courage, you have to listen, and you have to trust, and you step and you work with it, you co-create with it, but you're not the one making the call. Does that kind of make sense? And so it's a really
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's an important distinction, because that's how this works. 6 months ago, I had no idea I was going to be doing any kind of podcast or any kind of talks. I've always kept all this mystical kind of to myself. I shape it and I use it in everything, and it's allowed me to design curriculums and work with people and do these different things. Someone's waiting there. Okay. But I've never had the desire or the need to just come out of the closet, so to speak, and just say, okay, this is, but I heard a few months ago, go, do it. And since then, it's just been literally kind of like hanging on in a hurricane as these talks get set up, these things are happening, they're moving forward. And that's my mission. I know that's what I'm supposed to do. I think a lot of us that are here tonight are the teacher of the teachers. We're the first wave. There's 3 waves of light, but this first group that get this, what this is, and is experiencing the ascension, we're meant to begin to start teaching these people that come online next year and the year after. And this year is the year that we are supposed to establish our mission. And it's very critical, if you are hearing to do something, that somehow you find the courage within you to begin stepping forward and doing it, despite whatever doubts you have about your ability to carry it out, because it will happen. And you don't have, the thing of it is with the divine feminine, and I can't stress this enough, is that you cannot plan it out. You can't figure it out. You listen, you step. You listen, you step. And you have to give up knowing where it's going to take you, because you'll never know for the rest of your life. You're not going to know where it's going to take you. That's not the way it works. The masculine loves to know exactly where it's going and plan, but you can see where that's got us. And so it's a totally different kind of game. Let me stop there and ask, is there any questions, or is that anything before we?
Okay, hold on just one second, Mark. And no, this has really been fascinating, Mark. And we did have a question. One was a harmonic convergence, but I believe that was 1987.
Yes, yeah, August
Okay.
15th, 16th, 17th. Yeah.
Okay. And were you part of that formally? Because Barbara Marks Hubbard and some others were part of the team that put that together. Were you part of it formally, or did you just know it was happening?
No, we just knew it was happening. We followed a ray of light literally to a place called Rainbow Trout Farm, and everybody out there had done the same thing, except for the owner, who had heard to do it. And I don't think any of us had seen that it was, to do, as far as I'm aware of. We just heard, and so it was really cool. And if you talk to people that experience this happened all over the world. That's what's so profound. Every point of anchor that was on ley lines had people there gathered, which is, to me, so beautiful.
Wonderful. I just added Olivia. She has a question. Olivia, go ahead.
Olivia.
Hi, Mark. This is wonderful. Yay, divine feminine. I'm right. I'm totally with you. And my question really is addressing this whole idea of timing and listening deeply to what she really wants, because I'm involved with a wonderful group where we put together a panel of different ways of expressing the rising of a partnership between the divine feminine and the divine masculine coming on point at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And then something happened where we presented it, but it was at a time with the media that we were using was new, and it didn't it couldn't be handled with the complexity that we all had. And so we've been invited by this wonderful TV media to re-record it and to present it again. And we've even been asked to do it as a single event rather than part of a World Unity Week or whatever. And for some reason, it's kind of dropped away. It's been hard to discern, because I'm a great believer in signs and synchronicities. And the old me, I was a professor for many years.
Okay, yeah.
The old me would have said, okay, we're going to have a plan. We're going to get everybody together. What's going on, right? Yeah. And I've known very deeply that this is not the way. And yet I would love you to share a little bit more, because what I've been doing and what I did for the eclipse is I didn't look at it with my glasses. It was so interesting because the kit that I'd carefully bought for my husband and me disappeared and I couldn't find it. I finally found it 2 days ago. But what I did was I went inside and I did 8 hours of all sorts of different practices and rituals that day. And it was incredible.
Yeah.
And it lasted for 2 days. I was just higher than a kite, But what I was getting a lot of was the divine feminine, and the Buddha and compassion and everything. And when I was in Costa Rica, I had a sign from the Buddha. It was like. But now I'm wondering what next?
Your question.
Because that's my question. What next? How do I prepare myself to listen deeply and take that step in the right way, not in the old way? Because I do feel very strongly that we have a role to play, that we've come together for a reason. And that the divine feminine, in partnership with the divine masculine at this time, to raise the consciousness of that is very important.
Yeah, very, very.
Excuse me for being long-winded.
No, that's your question's the same, I think, that we're all dealing with. I mean, even Sarah Shook, she's going to be giving a talk on here if you guys meet and talk. We reached out to her. She does incredible timeline readings, looking at your best timeline. Now, she charges $120, but she was well worth it for what we paid for it, because she affirmated everything for us within that. But having said that, you're going to hear what you need to hear. Just, you said yourself that wasn't the way it was meant to go. We're going to do an exercise here in a minute that's going to show at least what your gifts are and give you a little bit more clarity towards that. But it sounds to me like you already know that. And so it's just, how to put it, it never works the way I think it's going to work. And there's always a lot of blocks. And the blocks is actually, if you do this with your hand, you know this old meditation when you do this with your hand, right? You don't know that? Okay. You can take your hand like this and you can feel the energy.
Right. Yeah.
You can feel the energy ball. Yes.
Right.
Well, it takes both a negative polarity and a positive polarity. So when it fails, as crazy as it sounds, that actually means it's manifesting. The thing that you want is actually forming right now. Now, if you had told me, well, everything was perfect and we know we're going to do that, then I'd think, okay, well, maybe not, because nothing pushed back. That's the way the material works, is that you will experience pushbacks and confusion and this and that, but you just keep stepping in faith. But the biggest thing is you listen, you step, listen, step. Like, and all you have to figure out to do this is your next step. That's it. And you don't have to figure it out. You just need to hear it. Excuse me. I shouldn't have figured it out. It's the wrong word. And I guarantee if I ask you right now, what is your next step? You know what your next step is. What is your next step? Remember, a step's little bitty.
I think that what I feel from my heart is that I need to be in conversation with each person, just not the whole group, but with each person individually, to speak from my heart and to hear them, speak from their heart. And that's really the next step. Okay,
then bring that down and make it a step. And pick the one person that you hear to call and reach out to. And that is your next step. Okay. Everything else, let go. Okay. Does that make sense? And that's the way this works as we move forward. And there's times when I'll take this back and I'll do it my way and I'll get beat up. But it's still, it's a zigzag. It still ends up where it's supposed to end up. And that's what's so beautiful about it. So,
okay. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We have another question here, comment from Raina Shea. Raina Shea, go ahead.
Hi, Mark. I just wanted to thank you for what you've been sharing. I think I've actually been trusting the divine feminine for most of my adult life. And it might have been a little easier if I'd known what to call it and said, I'm just trusting the way of the divine feminine. But I used to joke that I've not lived in the same place or done the same job for more than 4 years in a row since since college. And each step of the way, I just felt, it was like it wasn't even a voice, but I felt a call to take a step. And I just, most of my family thinks I'm a little crazy because I change my path so often, but
I call them schools. because they're like little classes that you're taking, and they all eventually come together. So, yes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share that because I was connecting with what you were sharing and my own experience.
That's awesome. That's and that's I've and it, for a long time it bothered me, like, why have I done this, or why did I do that, or why? But now, especially as I'm aligning completely with my mission, it's very, very clear why I did each thing, and it's kind of neat as it comes forward. Well, I'd like to do just to make sure. Did you want to say something? Go.
No, I just want to, you know, there's this expression, you know, it's all in divine order. It's all in divine order. Anything that happens, it's all in divine order.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I don't know, sometimes I push back on that and say, like, no, you didn't really need to make that decision. You know, talking to myself, not about something else. So how do you ferret that out from, you know, what I'm really hearing? And
thank you for asking that. You don't, because we're not perfect, but the thing of it is that moving into 3D, there's really a couple of things, or excuse me, moving into 5D out of 3D, there's a couple of things that you really want to do that's so critical. The first is you keep working on and going back and doing it 500 million times a day, reworking it, not judging anything. And that's tough. And that also means not judging yourself for anything you've done, or and you keep working that. The next one is, and this goes into, I'm sorry, was it Sheila? It goes into what she was talking about, how you know if it's right or not, is does it feel joyful? If it's not joyful, it's not right. It's not the way. That's the way the divine feminine tells you that it wants you to follow a certain way. If it feels heavy, it's not the way you're supposed to go. Even if it's something that's, you know, the doctor says you've got to lose 500 pounds to save your life, and it does not feel joyful, there is some other way for you to do what you need to do. And so this part of this, everybody has this tremendous gift to give, and everybody that's watching this are the teachers of teachers who are coming online this year with their mission to help pull others as they wake up, and showing them, just like we're doing right now, talking with each other, to bring this online. And so following what's joyful is so critical. And
I agree with that. You know, Mark, this year, our gathering, the theme is joy. Every year we've had, you know, 11 years, we've had a different theme. And this year is joy. And I can't tell you the positive reactions I've had from people. You know, they just like light up, like, well, that's what we need more of, you know? And I'm just like, and that was just something that I'll just say, just came to me and said, your theme is joy. Yeah. I went, all right,
wow.
We'll go with that.
That's because that is at the core of the divine feminine, you know, and that's what was stripped out of the world. You know, it's been gone since the fall of Atlantis, and it's, you know.
Well, that was one of my questions. When was the fall of Atlantis? What is
that? Was like 12,800 years ago is when all of this occurred, and so it came in stages, and it was because they were able to pervert the technology. We weren't ready to receive the technology we received, and so we have all these doomsday memories of this happening, which is very much in our collective, but it's not going to happen this time. We've made it past that. And so that's, you know, we're going to go through challenges. You know, I'm not saying that even that our economy won't collapse or different, but we will almost the time we're going to have a ton of help from different, you know, races across the universe. That's getting ready to happen very, very quickly. There's going to be a lot of changes, but the collapse of the old will happen pretty much next year. Is when you'll start seeing that, which is why it's so critical for us to come online and get our missions going now, so we can be there to help the people through it, because there's going to be a lot of people. Is that
Okay, I have one other little question is that
Sure.
I think it was Ernest Holmes that said, never be against something, just be for something.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just was, invited to this women's group. They're called and it seems like they're wanting to get rid of call out the archaic, barbaric patriarchy. And I just had like a contraction, just feeling, why don't we put out there the vision of what we want to go towards?
Well, that's just it. And thank you, because that's the other. There's three things, and the third one is that you want to focus on what you want. You want to not judge. You want to do what's joyful, and you want to focus on what you want, because now the creative power is so powerful. Whatever you're focusing on is what you get. So if you create something to tear something down, you're focusing on. So guess what? You're going to pull those people to you continuously. And it doesn't create, it just creates this negative vortex.
Great.
And
Well,
so
I'm gonna duck out here because I know you have more that you want to do, and I know your daughter Tara also. We'd love to meet her and
Yeah.
learn about her gifts. The two of you
All right.
are a dynamic duo.
That's right. Well, I'm going to do a quick exercise, and I'm going to let Tara talk. Is that okay, Tara? Yeah. Okay. I want to just do a quick exercise that I've done this with ambassadors, different people all over the world. It was something that Spirit gave me a long time ago, and it's in one of my books. But it's just a real simple exercise to show you your gifts. And so I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And if you have a piece of paper, you can write it down. If not, you can just remember it. It's not going to be real complicated. But and the first thing I'm going to ask you is, who do you admire the most? What person? And it can be a mythic character, it can be anyone, and why? And the why is really important. Why do you admire them? And Noel, would you want to do this with me, or is there, if you don't want to, is there someone that wants to do it with me? If I can show someone based on their answers, it would be better.
All right. Is there anyone who would want to do this with Mark? I will, maybe the two of us can do it. Just turn your video on and then I'll know you're saying yes. Okay. Raina Shea wants to do it.
Okay.
All right. Raina Shea, there you
All
go.
right.
All
Okay.
right. I'm gonna duck out, but I'm still gonna do it.
Okay, that sounds good. So you're going to write down, or do you know who you admire? I can't.
Okay, hold a second. I have to.
Oh, okay.
I have to ask her. There you go, Raina.
There we go. Oh dear. Well, the first person comes to my mind that is someone I've admired for a long time was Joan of Arc.
Okay. And why do you admire Joan of Arc?
Because she trusted what she heard and stood her ground in the things that she believed, and she fought for what she believed.
Okay. And any like adjective you would use, just one word to describe her, or give me a couple of adjectives maybe.
Warrior. Oh, you want an adjective, and is a noun okay?
That's perfect. Go ahead.
Spiritual.
Okay. All right. And now I'm going to ask you your favorite animal and why.
Oh, butterfly.
Okay.
Because the way it processes transformation.
So can
its
I say
whole life is about transformation, and I've always felt my whole life was all about transformation.
Okay. And now the animal you don't like and why. And we all don't like spiders, bats, snakes, that kind of. If you can tell me another one, it helps me a little bit work with you easier.
An animal I don't like.
Or you like less than you like the others that you just love.
Let me think a moment. Oh boy, you got me on the spot this time.
Okay, if you don't know that one, or if we had more time, but if it's easier for you, you can tell me the last person that made you really mad and why,
Oh,
if you want to share
well, my dad,
that. Okay.
because he tries to tell me what to do.
Okay, give me an adjective that describes what is that where he tells you what to do. What's the
Authoritarian.
authoritarian? Okay. All right. That's perfect. Is that okay? So how this works, if you think about it, there's 8 billion people on the planet and all the mythic characters and everything. You could have said anybody, but you said Joan of Arc. So you carry within you that energy of Joan of Arc. You said that I heard the word integrity, but you said she trusted what she heard and she lived her truth. You do that.
Yeah.
And more than that, you're a spiritual warrior. Just like she is. This is the energy that you embody and you carry. And I feel that coming from you. It's there. And then you said, butterfly again. It's along the same line. And you said it's transformation. That's because you carry that energy in you, and you also guide and help others through transformation. Now, the last one is different. And I'm going to tell you real quick mine so you can see how this works. The animal that I dislike is chihuahuas. Little bitty quivering. But when I was a kid, my granddad had one that bit me, and my aunt had one that slept underneath the stove. They were real poor, and they had an old wood coal stove, and it slept right there. And the only way you could get to the bathroom was walk by that, and he would snip at you. And I'd go hold the bathroom all night long, waiting for them to get up. So, and so, but if you look at me, I'm large, and the other is though, when I was growing up, I heard I was worthless. That's what I was told a million times a day. And a lot of my work is centered around worth. But even when I went overseas and became a professor, I just wanted to be important. And so you look at the Chihuahua, and the reason I don't like them is because they're small, is I needed to learn to be small. When I stopped trying to be important and I just trusted my truth, then everything came forward. Your answer that you gave was authoritarian. And so what that says is you are a tremendous spiritual teacher. Now you have to step up and claim your authority to be that. And I hope you do that tonight, because that's what you're being asked to do.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you very much.
So, and that's how this works. Whatever your answer was, you gave, you can look at that and kind of work it from there. And it never fails. It's an incredibly amazing thing.
I love what you just did with Miranda Shea, and I just want to take a moment to brag about her, because during during COVID, she has gotten her spiritual directorship certification.
Wow.
She has become a Unity licensed teacher, and right now she is working on she's going to One Spirit in New York to become an interfaith minister. So this woman, even though there were so many things against her, my hat's off to her. I really admire her. So.
That's profound. And I guess what I want to say is she already knows what she knows, and she's there. Now she just needs to begin to put it out. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't know where we're at time-wise, but I was going to let Tara talk now for a minute, and you guys can ask her whatever you'd like to ask. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Hi.
Hi, Tara. I'm
Hi.
Noel, and thank you for coming to our group tonight.
Yeah.
And we don't know too much about you, so would you give us a little background, because you have so many gifts, I understand, and willing to share with us tonight. So yes, you have the floor.
I don't really know what to say. I write. I'm an artist. I've never done one of these before, so just give me a moment.
Oh, that's okay. And I'll just tell you, there's some in our group who are very certain that they're Pleiadian.
Mhm.
And I understand you have a Pleiadian connection. And how does that manifest for you? And how did it come about? And how do you use those skills in art that you do? How do you see yourself coming out in the world? So other than that, I don't have any questions. Ha ha ha.
um, when on March 2nd and March 3rd, when we watched the ships, and it just felt like as if there was a lot just going on, and there was like a lot of energy flowing through me, and I could just feel sort of like I could just, see things, and it almost felt as if like, you know, I could just like um see sort of like past lives, and I could see what they were doing. And um there was one ship that like sort of stuck out to me the most on that night, and it was a Palladian ship. And um I always think like when I look at it, I see it was sort of it was very bright. And I like to think that like, well, I know that um Palladians to me are like very, very bright. And they sort of wore on the ship like yellow dresses, sort of pastel colors, and they were just overall bright. They like parties and they like plants. But they like the color yellow. And um it sort of stuck out to me that the sun, and I want to say like um dandelions, those are just two things that sort of resemble them. And I want to say like if you know you're a Palladian, like how to know, like how you would know is just you would you would be very cheerful, and you sort of just get that feeling like that you would know. And I can't really explain it any other way than that. um and I would say you'd feel with your heart, and sort of you would just know. And I feel like it would sort of be, you know I don't know how any other way to put it in words.
Well, first, let me just say you're very brave. If this is your first time doing this, I really appreciate your being so brave and talking with us. So, do you feel like you can just visualize the ship, or have you actually been on them? And would you consider yourself a Pleiadian from the
You know,
Pleiades?
I think I would personally. And honestly, I can just visualize it. And um when I saw them, it was kind of shocking to me, and I didn't really know what I was looking at, to be honest. I was like, what am I seeing? Like, I don't really know what's going on. So um and I just didn't know, but I could just tell, like, I was like, I believe that is Palladian. And I just sort of felt it in my gut, and I was like, I
Mhm.
I believe that is Palladian. And it's like there's this woman on the ship, and I feel like I have been there before, because it almost feels like home to me. And it feels
Wow.
sort of, it just feels nice there, and I like sort of going to that. And when I saw it, it was sort of comforting.
Mm.
And um going back to the woman, there was a woman on the ship, and she had bright red hair. I believe her name was Scarlet. And honestly, what I felt is that we were sort of friends on the ship, and she's a Palladian. And
Mhm.
um, I just, like, I believe that I was a Palladian. I believe I was on that ship before. It just felt as if it was home, and it felt comforting, being there and just looking
Everything
at it.
was
I knew,
everything
yeah.
was kind of familiar to you.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. And I felt as if it was just like I sort of knew knew it before and it felt familiar. So that's the way I would describe it. So
Did your dad tell me that you do some art?
I do. I've been just sort of, sketching over there and just sort of channeling whatever comes up. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Channeling, do you think from the Pleiades or channeling, or do you have?
Um
Did you see anyone? Usually she sees whoever is giving us the message. Did you see anyone this time? Or?
Actually I did, and I did draw her. I don't know if this is like good enough, but
Oh, yeah.
I don't
Angela?
usually Angela, yeah. And that's I genuinely, I don't think I was even drawing it. I think it was just sort of channeled because I was not really, doing it. And usually I just, like it sort of came to me and I was just sitting here, I didn't really know, and I just started drawing. And so, I think
During this call or before?
yeah, during this call.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So
Fresh, hot off the press, as they say. We do
Yeah.
have some.
Does she have something you're supposed to share with us or anything?
Um, just going back to what my dad, was saying, I'd say just follow your heart, do what's joyful, just do. And I also want to say this, like, do the right thing, just hear what comes, and let go of things that you need to let go. I want to say that too. I also want to say, just do things that are joyful. That's like, I can't stress that enough. Just,
Okay.
and,
All right.
enjoy life. So
Okay, let's see. Someone asked whether they could see the sketch again. Can you hold it up just a little bit
yeah,
longer?
I can.
Great. Okay, is she holding something like is she holding a light?
Can you move it closer to the
Yeah,
camera?
yeah. So when I was sketching this,
Nice.
it sort of felt as if it was sort of reminding me from like Atlantis, and that's what I was kind of getting. And it almost seems like when we were talking about Atlantis, I started to sketch that, and it just sort of came up. And that gem at the top is sort of the crystal, and Atlantis, the crystal was massive. So that's just something I put at the top. I don't know why I put it up there, but it sort of just came to me, to put it there. And the lantern she's holding is in Atlantis. When we were leading people out of Atlantis, we had these lanterns, and they were, I wouldn't say it was like green, and it was very bright, and that's what she's holding in her hand. And
Okay, okay.
yeah,
Wow, okay. And when was your first experience with this kind of, shall we
was
say,
like
non-physical
spiritual,
connection?
or I I think it's been going on for a while, and I probably, like spiritual wise, that's, I think, to be honest, like my very first time, I want to say, is when like I sort of was seeing things like sort of past the veil. I want to say when my dad first mentioned to me that there was people here to sort of see us, and it was they were to guide us, and that's when the ships were here, like March 2nd, March 3rd, and he told me to look up, see if I see any ships in the sky. So I did, and I was in the car, or not in the car, but I was about to get in the car, and I live in an apartment with my mom, and there's like a huge, like you can just see stars, like, so I looked up in the sky, and I could just see like millions of ships, just like a lot of them, and
Wow.
there was just a lot of them, and I was like, I don't know what I'm seeing, like I was confused, and sort of I didn't even know what I was looking at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like when I got home, I was telling my dad, I was like, where like the ships sort of like green, or a different color, and he started agreeing that's what we both saw. So, I think that's my first I think that was my first sort of experience when I saw that.
So that was your first, as you said, across the veil, just this past month then, or was it before that?
It was this year. Yeah,
This year?
March.
Mhm.
What is it, like March
Was that
2nd?
any particular astrological event going on that time, or it just happened to
Uh,
be March 2nd and 3rd? You
It's,
said something about the dragon lines, Mark.
yeah, it was the Pleiadians are masters at technology of working energy. And they work with planets all over the universe during ascension, upgrading the energy so people can shift. But
Mhm.
this was massive because these grids had been completely shut down. A grid had never been relit before. And they literally brought in millions of ships. It was the entire, 7 planets worth or whatever. It was massive, and it was incredible to see. I cried like a baby. I did because and you could see the entire sky was just lit with energy. It was unbelievable. So
Wow. Wow.
it was probably the most joyous moment of my life up until now. So
Ooh,
yeah.
boy,
and I want
hold.
to add. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, no, you go ahead.
I want to add to that. When we saw those ships, what was it when they were relighting the grid? I saw a ship and it was they had these massive like I don't know like a pot sort of, and it was just filled with like like fairy dust sort of, and it's like
Mhm.
just very it was almost like energy. And I think that's the best way to put it. It's just like it looked like fairy dust, but I know it's like sort of energy, and they were dancing. And I always like to think that dancing is good for the soul. So I think as when they were sort of I want to say they were spreading this fairy dust or the energy on to relight the grid. And when they were doing all of this, they were just dancing, and I think that's just very joyous to think of that because that's I want to say dancing is good for the soul. So
Well, you asked them why they were so happy, and they
Mhm.
came back and told you that. So
Yeah, yeah,
Well, you did say that on the ship they were partying.
yeah. I did.
I
So
like that.
yeah, and I think it's really cool. I think to me, Pleiadians, I feel like they are very happy, and they know, they just know, like they're just very happy and joyous in life, and it feels almost as if like they have nothing to worry about, really. And it's like, and I sort of look up to them, and like, as I know I'm a Pleiadian, and
Mhm.
that's why I want to go back to earlier when I mentioned the sun and dandelions, because I both think that like those are two very bright things. And um like the color yellow is almost like it's very bright. And
Mhm.
so when I saw the party, it was just almost like I want to say on the ship there was a like sort of, it was gold, it was a gold yellow ship, and there was plants, and it almost looks like it kind of looks like a royal ball, I want to say.
Oh,
And
what
there's
now? I'm sorry, I missed that.
like a royal ball. That's,
Oh,
I want to say that's
were
kind of
there a
what it
lot
looks
of
like.
people on the ship? Or a lot of
I want to
Pleiadians?
say there's a lot of people. It was kind of packed on the ship.
And
So
they kind of look like us humanoids.
yeah. Like togas, like what the
Ah,
ancient Romans wore.
mhm,
That's what I want to say. That's what it looked like. And it was sort of women wore dresses,
mhm,
and the main colors I saw though was sort of like brown, yellow, a bright yellow, light green, and a light purple. So sort of like almost pastel colors is what I want to say. Just very, it's
mhm,
no like dark colors.
mhm.
Um, I want to say it was just very bright, and you could just feel just like the energy, and it was bright there. That's what I want to say.
Does it
So
make you want to go back and visit the ship?
sometimes that's
Oh,
that's what I do. So
oh, what?
I
Sometimes
mean,
you do? You slip
well,
out? I gotcha.
like what I was meaning to say, like I think of it sometimes and it just feels nice being there and it
Mhm.
feels homely and like I don't really know how to put it into words.
Well, how about in your dreams? Do they ever come and visit you in your dreams?
You know, I don't think they have. Maybe they have, but I feel like my dreams are more of I don't really, to me it's more as like I don't know. I guess they would, yeah.
Mhm.
I guess there's just sometimes like even when I don't see them, I think there's just I think, um that yeah, I can't put it into words, but
Okay, that you're doing great. My goodness. Now I'm going to add one person here.
Um,
Just make it a
okay, I just wanted to say, have you since then had any sense that there are other people that you're relating to in a similar way on this planet, like other Pleiadian people that you may recognize?
I would say some of my friends and obviously my father, of course, my dad. Definitely some of my friends I know I have seen, and I've seen them like in a few past lives. Um, my dad for sure. My mom I've seen in a couple past lifetimes, and um, but that's mainly it. It's mainly my dad, mainly my friends, and sometimes I see my mom as well. So,
well,
and
you
other
mentioned
people.
the um Tara, you mentioned
Thank you, Tara.
You're
sorry
welcome.
about that, Olivia.
Thank you. This is wonderful. I just want to thank you. I I have a Pleiadian teacher, so this is very
Oh,
wonderful.
that's
Yeah,
great to hear. That's great to hear.
thank you.
Tara, you mentioned about past lives.
Mhm.
So when like if I asked you, could you tell me about my past life? Or is it just that when you see somebody, you can kind of like instantly get a flick of what their past life was, or
You
that you
know,
involved with them in their past life?
yeah. Um, I feel like for me, I don't think I'm really on that level yet. I've seen people like their past lives. Like I can see mine,
Mhm.
and it's like and I like to think like periods, like time periods that I'm just very interested. It's almost like I feel like I've had a past life in that. Like I would want to say like medieval times or you know um
Mhm.
uh what was that, King Arthur during those times. I feel like I've had a past life in that. And I was super interested in like Japan, and I started like studying that for a while, and then I saw myself and I had a past life with my mom and my dad. And I just I personally think like I can look at I think when I look at myself in the mirror, I can just see sort of my past life,
Wow.
but for other people, I don't think I've advanced that level yet, and I think I will. It's just not yet to come. So, but it will, and I just
Are
but I
you
can
doing anything particular to advance your skills?
you know I
Or
think it would be it's mainly my dad who's helping me with that because I
Mhm.
don't really know how to take steps in it, but
Mhm.
I would say overall it's just like my dad teaches me a lot about it, how to he's sort of like almost like a guide for me. So that's what I want to say.
That's wonderful. And I know what your dad would say. It's like, take the next step.
Yeah, yeah.
Make
I
sure
always
it's
ask for
joyful.
advice. So yeah, yeah.
Well,
He's
thank
definitely
you
taught me
so.
a lot. So
Oh, wonderful. Well, he's taught us a lot tonight here too. This has been really very special. So
mhm.
hope we get to meet you when we come to North Carolina.
Oh
And
yeah, for sure.
yeah, it'll be wonderful. So, Mark, I guess it's kind of our time is coming to a close. And everybody just thank Tara so much for, How brave. Talk about courageous.
Yeah.
Yeah, on this Zoom call and start talking to these people and
Yeah, I know,
yeah.
I know.
How old is she? She's 12?
Yes, yeah, 12 years old. So,
Wonderful. Well, if anybody wants to turn on their video, I will add you. We'd just like to thank you for your time tonight. But if you have some more, we always ask for, we're always ask for some final wisdom. So if there's something you want to share with us, it'd be.
Myself, you're asking, or?
Yes, yes.
Tara brought up a really important point, and I couldn't remember, and I don't, there's three things that with ascension that's so important. Two of them I talked about, following your joy and not judging. But the other is, in this time especially, there's going to be so much leaving. And it's so important to allow it to go. And just whatever's wanting to leave, let it go. No matter what it is.
Does that include no matter who it is?
Yes, it does. If they're wanting to go, let them go. And it's so important now. So that's one of the three things that I know for a fact that's critical for working with ascension. It's the joy, not judging, allowing the changes to happen, because they're going to come. We're going to have greater changes than's ever happened on Earth, and to us personally as well. And we just need to allow that to take place. So that'd be my finish up. And just thanking you guys so much for this. This has been great. We really appreciate it. So enjoyed it very much.
It's been
Can
wonderful.
I ask one quick question?
Sure, go for it.
Thank you. Some of us met a gentleman at our last co-creators event who talked about that the planet was going from the David Hawkins scale in over 200 this year. Has that come into your thoughts about all this?
I wouldn't be surprised at all. Nothing anymore would surprise me. We've already gone far past what they thought we would in this time frame. And I would not surprise me. But keep in mind that we all go through the ascension, and we do lose things for the new to come, but there is a clearing away as this light, and this light is tremendous. There's not a day that since this has started that I have not had flu-like symptoms that I have had to lay down at least for a little while, and then I feel fine. But it comes, these waves come in, and I work with them, and then so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, thanks, Sheila.
Yeah, Bob, now I have to have a little power naps.
That's it.
That's so critical.
It's been interesting.
Mark.
You've had restless sleep for quite a while now, Noel.
Yeah.
And we really need to honor that. Whatever your body is wanting to do, this especially right now during this time is a time of being, not really doing so much as it is just integrating this energy. And that is the key thing that we need to be doing right now, is integrating this energy and allowing us to be who we are, wherever we're at. So
fantastic. Well, this has just been absolutely spectacular. Mark, tell us about the upcoming event that you and Tara will be doing.
Well, we've got 3 of them so far. I have a surgery on June the 6th for a hernia operation, but I won't go into that. So we don't have anything scheduled past that, but we filled up May. Every weekend we're talking, and it's basically doing what we just did here, but it will be live, and I'll do the same exercise, and Tara will draw and talk with Matt, and we're not real sure exactly. We're stepping and listening as we go with this. We've already got some people that's signed up and coming, and so it's clicking
and this
along.
Is mostly around the Asheville, North Carolina.
It is right now, but we've been told that we'll even be going overseas doing this, and so now I don't know. But and supposedly I'm supposed to take my art and let people, because I've got like little sayings and stuff that go with my art, and it's coded matrix that we're supposed to allow people to read those and just but it's all supposed to come together and take off. And so, like I said,
Well, your art is amazing. And
thank you
so
very much.
you can look up Mark Shryock on Facebook. And
Yeah.
also Bob just put in the chat his website, Mark A. Shryock,
Yeah.
SHRYOCK.com.
And I would urge you to go to the Facebook. That is where, at this point, I don't have time to keep both of them up. And be honest, I've wrestled with just killing Facebook because I
Don't
know.
we all?
Yeah. Well, and the thing of it is, I know there's so many people that don't even know what we're talking about, and they think we're just whacked. But at the same time, those people are going to be the people that, when they do start going through this a year from now or 2 years, they're going to need at least some kind of basic. So I stay. That's where I'm at right.
There'll be some that will be left behind that just will absolutely refuse.
Absolutely. And it's not so much, it's not a left behind as it is, but that's a good way to, but
It's their choice.
Anybody, yeah, it's their choice. And there's a lot of people who just, you can learn a lot in 3D, and there's a lot of people that will go on to a different planet, you know, as this progresses forward, that just do not want to stay here in 5D. And I don't know I don't know enough about the timelines, I've never experienced changing timelines like I am right now. And literally they're changing so fast. It could be, you know, everybody ascends. I don't know how to even read that. I don't even try to guess anymore what's going to happen. Yes.
Mark, you had mentioned somebody who has timeline information.
Yeah.
Can you put that in the chat?
Can I give it to you? Is that okay? Or let me see if I can, if I'm
Why don't you just spell it, Mark, and I'll put it.
Okay. It's Sarah.
Thank you.
S-A-R, I'm real dyslexic, so just spell Sarah out, and then it's Shook. Sarah Shook. S-H-0-0 or S-H-O-O-K.
Okay.
That's dyslexia there.
Sarah with an H. Sarah with an H.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Sarah Shook.
Okay.
Let me click off this 2 seconds and pull up.
Thank you,
1 second.
Noel.
Okay. In the meantime, Tara, Rosemary on Facebook said, thank you, and listen to the children. They're the ones who know. And she gave you a big angel smile and heart. And Barb on Facebook really loves your sketch. She's the one that asked to see it again.
All right.
And, yeah. So this has been just a very special.
And I think so much of her that I printed off flyers that I'm actually going to give out during our talks.
Wow.
Because I think it's critical if people want help lining with their mission. She, you know, we're all stepping into this, all of us, not really sure what it's even about. And it's so cool to have affirmation of, I see this in you. This is what you've got. Go with it. Do it. And she was just so right on line. She knew things that there's no way she could have just made up. And it changed my life, actually talking with her, to be honest. And it was just, but it was all affirmation. We'd already heard it, but just hearing it through someone else is such a neat thing.
Okay. I found her website. It's Sarah Shook Healing.
Yeah.
I just posted it. Yep.
Awesome.
Oh,
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
She's wonderful. She's got some YouTube up as well, and she's the real deal. She's
is she also in the Asheville area, or is she elsewhere?
She was before. I believe she's in Chicago now, but she has actually worked at the store Crystal Visions, where we're giving the talk. She used to work there at one time.
Oh.
Yeah. So and she allowed me to name drop, and that's how kind of some of this began, to be honest. So, and she's the one that said to me, you need to be giving these talks, and you're going to be showing your art as well. And it's kind of what got me off my duff, and because I was still, you know, because of the, you know, you take a hit on one end, you know, working with universities, and but I'm so glad I did it, and I'm so glad I listened to it. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mark, and we'll see you in October. And blessings of everything that you're. We'll get an update on everything that's happened to you too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for what you're doing. It's so important, and just blessings. Thank you so much. So
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Thank you, Tara. And we'll see you soon.
all right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you
Bye-bye.
next time.
May peace prevail on earth.